The Monaco marina gleamed under the warm Mediterranean sun, a dazzling array of luxury yachts swaying gently with the rhythm of the sea. Each vessel seemed to whisper stories of wealth and privilege, and amidst this sparkling scene, Victoria stood alone on the private dock, her calm figure a stark contrast to the bustling scene before her. Her family was gathered, laughing and posing for photos in front of a magnificent yacht they believed was rented for their exclusive, successful family-only cruise. Their smiles were wide, their designer clothes immaculate, the air thick with pride and a shared sense of entitlement. Yet, Victoria's gaze was steady, almost knowing, as if she held a secret they had never imagined. The name on the hull, Victoria's Dream, gleamed boldly in the sunlight, but none of them had bothered to read it. Her mother's sharp voice suddenly cut through the sea breeze, slicing the moment like a knife. "Victoria, what are you doing here?" The words hung heavy, laced with disbelief and veiled accusation. The dock was private, an unspoken boundary she was not supposed to cross. Victoria simply smiled, adjusting the Hermes scarf around her neck with quiet confidence. "I know," she replied softly as her mother summoned the dock's security. The crisp morning air held a tense stillness as the guard approached, his posture rigid and professional. "Is there a problem, Ms. Robertson?" he asked, eyes briefly flicking to Victoria. Her mother, pride twisting into triumph, declared, "My daughter is trespassing. This dock is reserved for the yacht's owner only." Yet the guard's expression remained calm, almost amused. "That's exactly why I allowed her in." The silence that followed was electric, a sudden crack in the polished facade Victoria's mother had so carefully maintained. Confusion rippled through the family. Her brother Michael froze mid-pose, designer sunglasses sliding down his nose, and her sister Rachel's champagne glass halted in midair, forgotten. The guard explained with deliberate clarity that Victoria, known formally in the business world as Alexandra, was not an intruder but the rightful owner of the yacht. Their laughter and arrogance drained instantly, replaced by disbelief and an unspoken question. How had they missed this? Victoria's smile deepened, knowing the shock they felt was just the beginning of a revelation that would unravel much more than just a family cruise. The stunned silence that settled over the marina was as heavy as the shimmering heat above the waves. Victoria's family, once so sure of their place and status, now found themselves adrift in a sea of confusion and disbelief. Her mother's carefully crafted composure cracked, her voice faltering as she clung to the last remnants of control. "We rented this yacht," she insisted weakly, "through Elite Maritime Services. It's not yours." But Victoria's gaze was steady and unyielding as she calmly unfolded the truth before them like a master storyteller revealing the final act of a long-played drama. "Elite Maritime Services," she began, her voice steady and rich with quiet power, "is my company." She watched their faces drain of color as the weight of her words sank in. "I started it 10 years ago, a small boat rental business, something you all dismissed as a hobby, a phase while I found myself. Meanwhile, you were busy building your careers, thinking you were the successful ones." Her brother Michael's incredulous expression twisted into disbelief, his mind scrambling to connect this. Rachel, phone in hand, frantically searched for the company online, her fingers trembling as she uncovered the staggering valuation. "4 billion at last estimate," Victoria said, almost casually. "But with our recent expansion into Asia, it's closer to 6 billion now." The word hobby hung between them like a bitter joke, a sharp reminder of how little they had seen or understood. "So you see," Victoria continued, "this yacht you so proudly claim to rent? It's mine. All of it. Every luxury vessel with the Elite Maritime logo in this marina runs through my company. Your precious real estate materials? Transported by my fleet." Her mother's protests grew feeble, her words tumbling out in a desperate attempt to salvage pride. "We were trying to motivate you," she said, voice cracking. "By excluding you, by pushing you away." Victoria laughed then, but it was a cold, hollow sound, void of warmth or forgiveness. "You motivated me, all right, to build something so successful that you ended up paying me to rent my own yacht." The crew around them exchanged secret smiles, having heard the full story during preparations, knowing this family drama was about to become a spectacle. Victoria's father, who had remained silent until now, stepped forward with a hollow voice that carried years of regret. "How much did we pay for this cruise?" The question, heavy with irony, was met with Victoria's clear reply. 200,000 euros. Non-refundable, naturally. The crushing reality set in. The family had been outplayed at every turn, caught in a web woven from their own underestimation and pride. Victoria's phone buzzed again, this time flashing a news alert heralding Elite Maritime's major expansion and soaring stock prices. With a pointed smile, she waved the phone for all to see. "Maybe it's time you check your investment portfolios. Seems you missed your chance when it was just my little hobby." The vibrant sun above continued to shine, but in that moment, the glow reflected not just the sea, but the brilliance of a woman who had quietly risen from the shadows, now fully in control. The family, once dismissive and distant, now stood speechless, their carefully constructed world unraveling with every word she spoke. Tension crackled through the salty air, thick enough to taste, as the family grappled with the staggering reversal of roles laid bare before them. Michael stepped forward, his posture shifting from disbelief to the controlled aggression of a man desperate to reclaim dominance. "Victoria," he began, voice sharp and laced with frustration. "If we had known, if we'd just reached out, maybe things could have been different. Maybe you wouldn't have shut us out." But Victoria's eyes, steady and unflinching, held the quiet fire of someone who had survived far more than mere rejection. "Shut you out," she repeated softly, voice heavy with irony. "You excluded me. You pushed me aside like a mistake, a shadow in your perfect family picture." The words hung like a challenge, igniting the fragile dynamics that had long simmered beneath polite smiles and surface civility. Her mother, still reeling, clutched her pearls as if they could anchor her to the dignity slipping away. "This isn't how families behave," she insisted, voice trembling. "You're turning this into a spectacle." Victoria's smile was sharp and unyielding. "This isn't a spectacle, Mom. This is the truth. The reality you refuse to see." She gestured toward the yacht, gleaming under the Mediterranean sun, a symbol of her triumph and their collective blindness. "For years, I built this empire with nothing but determination and hard work, while you were busy ignoring me, calling my efforts a hobby, telling everyone I was just finding myself. Well, I found myself all right, and built something you all thought impossible." Rachel, her eyes wide with shock, whispered, "But why didn't you tell us? Why keep this a secret?" The question lingered, exposing the chasm of trust that had formed. Victoria's gaze softened for a fleeting moment, revealing the cost of her silence. "Because I wanted to prove one thing, that I didn't need your approval or your pity. I needed to build my own path, on my own terms. And I did." The air thickened as the family exchanged glances, pride, regret, and a dawning respect mingled uneasily. Yet beneath it all, the battle for control was far from over. Victoria's voice lowered, resolute and steady. "Now, the cruise continues, but on my terms. You'll find your accommodations changed, your roles shifted." She handed over the new room assignments with deliberate calm. "Michael, you and Jessica will stay in the port guest cabin near the engine room. Rachel and Thomas, the starboard crew quarters. And as for Mom and Dad, you'll be in the forward cabin, the cozy crew quarters." Gasps erupted, disbelief turning to outrage as the reality sank in. Victoria's words cut through the rising storm like a blade. "You rented through my company on my yacht. So the master suite is mine. As owner, I make the rules." Her mother's protests crescendoed in a desperate crescendo, but Victoria held firm, unmoved. "If you want a luxury cruise, you'll find it elsewhere. Elite Maritime controls most of the charters here, and your deposit is non-refundable." The sun dipped lower, casting long shadows across the dock, mirroring the darkening mood. Yet amid the tension, Victoria felt a quiet surge of power, a reclaiming of what had been denied to her for too long. The camera flashes from arriving paparazzi only intensified the drama, catching every flicker of emotion, every faltering protest, every victorious smile. In that charged moment, it was clear the family's game had changed forever. The yacht wasn't just a vessel on the sea, it was a throne, and Victoria had taken her rightful place. The soft murmur of the arriving press grew steadily louder, the clicking of cameras punctuating the charged atmosphere like a relentless heartbeat. Victoria stood poised at the gangway, the Mediterranean sun casting a radiant glow around her, transforming her into a beacon of undeniable success. The flashing lights captured her every movement, every confident step, every sharp glance, every carefully measured smile, and the world would soon see her in a way her family never had. Reporters swarmed, their questions flying fast and sharp, but Victoria's voice rose clear and steady above the din. "Welcome to Alexandra's dream," she announced, her words dripping with quiet triumph. "My yacht, my company, my dream brought to life." The words echoed across the dock, rippling through the crowd like a powerful tide. Behind her, the yacht's crew moved with precision, a silent army of professionalism that reinforced the reality she commanded. Cameras caught the stunned expressions of her family, faces frozen between shame and disbelief, as they were led toward their unexpected quarters. "You're witnessing more than a family reunion," Victoria continued, eyes sparkling with a mixture of vindication and grace. "This is the story of what happens when underestimated ambition refuses to be ignored." Her mother's face drained of color as the press circled, sensing the narrative slipping from her control. Yet Victoria held the moment with the calm of a seasoned CEO, knowing that every headline, every shared photo, would carve her name deeper into public consciousness. Her phone buzzed incessantly, messages from media contacts, stock updates, and congratulatory notes, a tangible pulse of her growing empire. "Elite Maritime Services isn't just a shipping company," she explained, turning toward the cameras. "It's a testament to resilience, vision, and the power of believing in yourself when no one else will." The crowd hung on her every word, the spectacle unfolding into a masterclass of poise and power. As photographers jostled for the perfect shot, Victoria glanced back at her family one last time, a subtle smile playing on her lips. This was more than a reveal, it was a declaration. The family's secrets were now public, their facades shattered, and her legacy cemented under the relentless Mediterranean sun. "Let the world know," she said softly, "that success isn't given, it's earned. And sometimes, the best revenge is showing up and owning the stage." With that, she turned, stepping confidently onto the deck of her yacht, the press trailing behind, eager to capture every moment of the woman who had finally claimed what was rightfully hers. As the yacht gently rocked against the serene Mediterranean waves, Victoria stood at the railing, her eyes tracing the endless horizon where sea met sky in a perfect, boundless embrace. The day's tumult had faded into a quiet hum, leaving behind a powerful stillness that settled deep within her soul. This wasn't just a victory over old wounds or family slights. It was a profound lesson carved out of years of struggle, perseverance, and self-belief. The shimmering water reflected the soft glow of the setting sun, painting the scene with hues of gold and rose, as if nature itself acknowledged the significance of the moment. She thought back to the years of being overlooked, the whispered doubts from those she once called family, the isolation that had stung sharper than any insult. Yet those moments, painful as they were, had forged an unbreakable spirit, a resolve to create a life defined not by others' expectations, but by her own vision and values. Victoria's mind wandered to the people who had truly mattered, the loyal crew, the steadfast partners, the mentors who saw her worth when others did not. They were the silent architects of her success, the living proof that value is measured not by pedigree or privilege, but by integrity, dedication, and kindness. She turned away from the endless blue, letting her hands rest lightly on the polished wood of the yacht's rail. This yacht, this company, these victories, they were symbols, yes, but more importantly, they were reminders that true wealth is found in dignity and self-respect. In the distance, The twinkle of distant lights from Monaco's shore began to flicker to life, each one a small beacon in the vast darkness, just as her journey had been a light in the shadowed corners of her past. The lesson she now carried was clear and simple. Success without authenticity is hollow, and the greatest triumph is the courage to rise, remain true, and uplift others along the way. She breathed deeply, feeling the crisp sea air fill her lungs, anchoring her to this new chapter, one defined not by bitterness or revenge, but by grace, humility, and a steadfast commitment to living a life of genuine value. Victoria smiled softly, the warmth of the sunset mingling with a quiet strength blossoming inside her, knowing this was only the beginning of a legacy far greater than she had ever imagined.